Come, come, whoever you are. In a way, we begin our worship service each week with those words. We say it with a little more specificity. Come, you certain and seeking. Come, you, the lifers and the newcomers. Come, you, the beloved and the brokenhearted. But when we get right down to it, when we say those words, we mean, come, come, whoever you are. All of who you are is sacred. All of who you are is welcome. This particular hymn that we started worship off with this morning, it has a special place in my heart and also my journey into ministry. It was the first UU hymn that I knew totally by heart and didn't need the book for. It was sung at Unitarian Universalist youth events that I attended, often during evening worship services. And if you can imagine about 100 high school youth and their adult advisors sitting around in a circle, lights low, candles flickering, singing, come, come, whoever you are. There we were, ranging in ages from 14 to well over 50, from large cities and small towns, some of us brand new and others seasoned veterans in youth ministry work. What we had in common was Unitarian Universalism and our insistence that no matter what, every youth was welcome there. And in that particular community of people, that particular kind of hospitality was radical and for some a life-saving message. It was radical and even life-saving because so many of the youth, and probably not a few of the adults, often felt like outcasts in other areas of their lives. Whether it was because they preferred band to sports, or dated people of the same gender, or their religious beliefs did not match those of their neighbors, whatever it was that made them different in high school and not quite fit in, none of that mattered in that circle of love and trust. They all came together in this one magical moment that was UU Youth Ministry. It was really like our own Unitarian Universalist version of The Breakfast Club, that iconic movie from the 1980s. Some of us probably have watched it a dozen or more times. Singing that hymn at youth gatherings and looking into one another's faces, our words moving among us, connecting us together, it became something more than just another song. Those words, come, come, whoever you are, no matter if you're popular in school, no matter if your home life is perfect, no matter your particular struggles. Those words, that message, became the foundational theology of that youth ministry experience. They expressed the wide open welcome promised and extended to all who entered, regardless of what made them different in other places, or perhaps because of it. After singing that hymn so many times, I discovered that the words are taken from a slightly longer piece written by Rumi, follower of the Islamic mystical tradition of Sufism. The full version goes like this: come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again, come. If you remember back to the verses we sang earlier this morning, you may wonder, what happened to that line? Even if you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Where did it go in our UU arrangement of Rumi's words? Did they just disappear? Did the arranger not know that phrase was included? I find that hard to believe. We like to know everything, don't we? Musically, did it just not fit? I'll have to ask Catherine a little bit later about that. Or are we somehow uncomfortable with the way that forgiveness or mercy is expressed in that phrase? And what would be our Unitarian Universalist concept of mercy anyway? There's no heading for it in the back of our hymnal where our hymns and readings are categorized by topic. On the UU Worship web, it's not given as a search option under spiritual themes, at least not yet. Maybe I'll write a note. We can look to other traditions for an initial understanding of mercy, and one that goes a little bit deeper from the one that dominates much of Western culture. That definition suggests a power imbalance between two unequal parties, one having the ability to either do harm or not do harm to another. A couple of weeks ago, I shared Catholic theologian Thomas Merton's idea of mercy. He wrote, "Mercy is fidelity, it is also strength. It is ultimate and unfailing because it is the power that binds one unto another in a covenant of hearts." In Merton's view, mercy becomes not a power over proposition, but the binding of a covenant of hearts, and it indicates some level of mutual responsibility or shared intention between two equal parties. Earlier this week, I had the pleasure of talking about this concept of mercy with a friend of Jonathan's who converted to Islam. Her name is Lee. She's Japanese American. And when I told her that mercy was the worship theme at Troop this week, she reminded me that mercy is a significant theme in Islam. Lee shared the phrase that is recited before every surah or chapter of the Quran except one. In the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. And Lee lifted up an idea that she finds particularly beautiful when it comes to understanding the concept of mercy in her tradition. She also does not really take to that definition that is more about a power imbalance. And what Lee really loves is that the Arabic word for mercy is rahmah. And the root of that word, from, means mother's womb. And so for her, mercy is connected to nurturing. It's connected to protection and compassion. It's love, and it's more than love. In Islam, Allah's rahmah, or mercy, is the source of all earthly love and kindness. Lee went on to say that the trials and tribulations that we go through in life are not there to punish us, but they're part of our process of learning and growing as people. In her words, growing ever closer to God's mercy. Mercy as mother's womb. Lee's explanation reminded me of a wisdom tale that I love, and in the story it says that God holds each one of us by a string. And when we break our vow or sin, we're in essence cutting that string. We cut the connection between ourselves and the sacred, between ourselves and all that we know, between ourselves and other people. When we cut that string and realize what we've done, when we ask for God's help or mercy, and she ties the string back together again, making a knot, that thereby brings us closer. Again and again in our lives, we cut the string, we break our vows 1,000 times, and again, our Creator reties it. With each knot, our strings become shorter and shorter. We are drawn closer and closer to what we understand as the holy. So taking some thoughts from Merton and some thoughts from Islam, we can start to see mercy, at least in our Unitarian Universalist context, as this. that every one of us is bound together in a covenant of hearts, expanding into a mutual relationship with all creation, in which all beings are welcomed and wanted, in which we offer nurture, protection, compassion, and love to ourselves and others. Even when we break our vows 1,000 times, we're always called back to that covenant of hearts. Every day, a new opportunity to answer the call of love in our lives. But for me, this begs the question, really? Everyone? I mean, all of us bound together in a covenant of hearts? Do I want to be in that teeny tiny space with everybody? Maybe a big name in our country will go unnamed, but really that person too is in our covenant of hearts? All welcomed and wanted, no matter who's on the other side of that string? Marilyn Sewell, contemporary Unitarian Universalist theologian, she describes this inherent tension in the idea of mercy. She wrote, "We Unitarian Universalists believe that God's mercy will reconcile the world." Now, this piece about God's mercy, I confess I don't know how that could be true. How could God's love be that all-encompassing, that forgiving? I can't even forgive my neighbor who consistently gets out his leaf blower every time I sit down to write a sermon. How could everyone be saved? Surely some of us should go to hell. Surely the guy with the leaf blower is on his way. But no, not one. Not one in the Holy's infinite mercy. We are asked to stretch ourselves out large enough to take that in. And she writes, I'm not there yet. But that's the great thing about my faith. It's evolving, and so am I. Well, Sewell reminds us that being with mercy and really everything that we do in our religious lives is worthy and demanding of practice. We try and we fail. We get it right, and then we break a vow again. How can it be? One of my teachers likens this to the tree pose in yoga. Have you been to class and tried the tree pose? Yeah, well, you stand there focusing on something in front of you and try to put one foot up on another leg while you put your arms up in the air. And the goal is to steady your mind and breath enough so you can hold it for an extended period of time. Well, of course, most of us, if we're not a yoga teacher, we fall out of that pose pretty quickly, do we not? But the whole point is not really how long can you maintain it, but how willing are you to go back to your breath, to try the pose again, even when you keep falling over, hopefully not on someone next to you in class. And you practice that again and again and again. Our lives give us so many opportunities to practice this idea of mercy and answering the call of love. And this afternoon, we have an opportunity to practice stretching ourselves, widening our covenant of hearts. In just a few days, Trump's new Muslim ban takes effect. And today, after service, we will join people in downtown Los Angeles, people from all faith traditions, people from the American Civil Liberties Union, people from schools. We are joining with our Muslim siblings to say, no Muslim ban ever. And we're joining as a way to uplift voices of those most impacted by the anti-Muslim atmosphere of the Trump administration. Those of us who can will gather in the foyer after service and take the Gold Line into downtown LA for the march. If you want to be part of that, but the thought of going on the Gold Line is overwhelming, the group is meeting up in Little Tokyo at the Japanese American Museum, and we could see you down there. My early immersion in UU youth communities, it introduced me to a Unitarian Universalism that looks a little different from a formal Sunday morning service, but a community that shares that deep foundational theology. Come, whoever you are. Our presence this afternoon in downtown LA and in so many other places we go together, whether it's the food we donate to Friends Indeed or our collaboration with Clue on behalf of low-wage workers, that communicates more clearly than any words we can say. Come, whoever you are. The way each of you show up here, kindness with each other, ready to welcome a newcomer, always generous with your compassion. It speaks so clearly. Come, whoever you are. In the coming days, may you stretch and sway. May you reach out and then wobble, continually refining your own way to answer the call of love, mercy, and compassion. May it be. And one way that our Unitarian Universalist insistent on widening our covenant of hearts actually comes in our closing hymn today. It was once known as Standing on the Side of Love. And the composer became aware that for some people in our pews, standing isn't an option for them. And even though we can take the word standing as poetry and metaphor, the composer felt like he wanted a song that could more deeply embrace and widen that circle of everyone who comes into our churches. So he has asked now that this song be known as Answering the Call of Love. Hopefully most of us can answer the call of love, however you define that particular word. In a moment we'll rise and sing it. You'll probably catch yourself saying the words printed in your hymn book. That's okay. All are welcome here. But as you remember, we'll sing Answering the Call of Love. So please rise as your mind and body and spirit allow for closing hymn number 1014.